all for coming. And thank you, Dr. Paul, for coming to speak with us.
Beautiful morning. Last night I wasn't so sure. Flying in during that lightning storm and all, I wondered what's the weather going to be like, but maybe somebody is shining down on us today. Now, what a delight to be here and to meet so many enthusiastic supporters for freedom. This to me is so important. A lot of people talk about the Ron Paul revolution, the Ron Paul campaign, but I've said, and I sincerely believe it's not my campaign as much as I've just been instrumental and helpful. But the campaign is yours, and that is why I'm so delighted that you have invited me to join this campaign for liberty. It is true that I've been in this business for a long time, and at times it seemed a little bit lonely. I think over the years somebody added up, and we don't know the exact number, but we do know that it was over 300 times that I voted by myself in the Congress.
Oh, man.
And somebody said I was only there to make a point. Well, part of the reason was I was there to make a point, and the point is that they need to know that the American people care about our Constitution. The point is we ought to obey the law of the land and obey the Constitution.
That's right.
It also begs the question on what our tactics ought to be, and there's no one set rule for tactics on how you go about doing things. Some people in Congress who leaned in our direction would take it upon themselves to fight the battles on the House floor with parliamentary procedures and being pretty strenuous there with their language and all, and I think that's quite all right. You can obstruct and slow things up, maybe. My approach over the years has been different, and it has been to try to set an example and do the job, and realizing that if they have all the votes, ultimately they're going to run over us anyway. And therefore, I looked at it as a long-term project to try my best to set an example. And I think I continue to do that, and I think all of us are involved, and each one of us might have a different approach to the tactics on what we do. But to me, the most important thing is to set example, and above all else, as I do by my votes, is try to insist that we follow the rules, and the Congress is the Constitution at a convention is to follow the rules of the convention.
That's right. That's right. You're right. You tell them.
And once again, we do our best. If the votes aren't there, we still have a role to play, and it's very, very important because they work on a short-term basis. They work on an hourly basis or a daily basis or a weekly basis. And we do too to some degree, but ultimately what we want to do is change this country, we want to change this party, we want to change the nature of the understanding of liberty, we want to bring up a new generation of individuals who will put in place the rules and laws of the Constitution and those things that have made this country great.
That's right.
So therefore we have to, and we have to weigh and balance these, but ultimately the long term is what we do, as campaigns wind down. The campaigns are very important, but I see them as short term. So we do our very best, some we win and some we lose, but the campaign that we have all been involved with still has a little way to go. It just may be that we may just have a grand presence in Minneapolis come
That's right.
September 2nd.
That's right. We will. We'll be there. We'll be there.
But we also know at the present time where the votes are and what will happen. But that does not mean that this momentum is going to be diminished. Papers have been reporting, how can there still be momentum for our campaign at the same time we don't have the votes? And that is because the campaign that is going on right now is going to be a campaign for the freedom revolution, which will continue for a long time.
That's right. That's right.
You know, this last year, for me personally, has been a pleasant surprise. It's been magnificent because, as I said, you know, I felt very lonely at times and didn't know how people would respond. I didn't know how many people were frustrated, how many belonged to the remnant, and how many young people would join us. But just on a daily basis, we see young people joining by leaps and bounds, and that the remnant, those who were the true believers and understood, those numbers were much larger than anybody imagined. So I have been very encouraged. I have been given the credit that I have removed some apathy from people, but let me tell you, the crowds like you and the individuals in the campaign has helped me to get rid of some of my skepticism about where will we ever go and how can we reach it, where are the people going to be. So I think in the one strong message I have for you, there is every reason to be encouraged and not discouraged with our numbers, regardless of what's happening today or tomorrow or the next day, because we have the rightness on our side, we have the issues, and we can win this. We must win this, because the country is waking up. This is one of the things that I think has happened and why the message has all of a sudden been received, is the recognition of the trouble that we're in and all the double talk we hear. When I ask young people, and I meet a lot of them after rallies very frequently, I'll talk to as many as I can. I'll say, what got you interested? How did you get involved? And well, I saw you on the debates. I said, yeah, but you know, if you analyze it and you read the debates, I'm saying this and this. And you know, the one thing that they tell me, which is complimentary, and I'm pleased with it, they would say, well, it sounded like you were the only one that was telling the truth.
Woo! Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you.
You know, on the surface, they sound very sincere and all, but it's amazing to me that so many people, young and old, can see through that. They can see through the rhetoric, and they can see through this nonsense over and over again. And in many ways, they're in denial. But our government does this to us all the time. Oh, sure, we can go to war. It's going to be a cakewalk, and the oil's going to pay for the bills, and look what we got. No wonder we're skeptical about what the government's doing and why the people are waking up. Because, of course, if we had followed the Constitution and not gone to war without a declaration and been very cautious and had some common sense, we wouldn't be in this mess, and our troops would be here at home.
That's right.
But all around us, we see the failure of government, and we see the lying of government. Right now, of course, we have the book coming out by McClellan, and nothing new. We've heard all that before, but it's significant because he was a close insider, a good friend and ally, and all of a sudden he's saying, you know, they knew what they were doing. And so people now know this, that we were misled. And it was war propaganda. It continues. Just think, it doesn't even stop now. Just think of all the propaganda now. Even this morning, they were showing how horrible the Iranians are because they are preparing to defend their borders in case they get bombed. Well, what is their moral responsibility for their country? You know, if we surround a country that has not attacked us and we're threatening to bomb it, wouldn't they have a moral responsibility to defend themselves? And they're saying, oh, these horrible people are preparing to defend themselves. You know, when the debate came up in the IR committee, is when I introduced try to put the pressure on the members of Congress and remind them, you know, there was something called the Constitution. I introduced this resolution as a substitute. I said, look, if you want to go to war, you're supposed to declare war, so I'm going to introduce this resolution to declare war. I'm not going to vote for it, but this is what you should do. Of course, that was, nobody voted for it, and it was ridiculed and laughed at like they like to do. But one member of Congress got up and he was outraged because I had made a statement that the Iraqis had not committed, as bad as they are and were, they had not committed aggression against the United States, and they were a threat to our national security. And he says, I know Ron Paul, and I respect him, and I know he's known to defend the Constitution, and all that pandering stuff. He says, but let me tell you, and let me tell him that They have been committing aggression. They've been shooting at our airplanes all these years that we've been talking. And they say it with sincerity.